With that down, our first main topic today is a quick one here because it's kind of news that just pretty much just came out for the most part because A Quiet Place 2 has recently opened up in theaters, and as of right now, it is already the pandemic record holder for opening weekend. We're projecting it's going to be somewhere around the $58 million mark after Monday. I guess this show is going to come out on Monday. So as of today, it should be around the $58 million mark, Memorial Day and everything. Normally, a lot of movies do good during the holiday weekend. They get that extra day and everything. So that works out for them. But this is kind of interesting as well because down in the article, it goes on to say that the first A Quiet Place opened to 50 million, and that was, a new property. No one had ever heard of it. First time director and John Krasinski. Everyone knows John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, but it was his first time director. So it was a directorial debut. He may have directed a couple episodes of The Office, not 100%, but first movie that he directed himself. So the fact that it was even able to open to a $50 million opening for a brand new property is pretty impressive in itself. But then when you compare that to the juxtaposition of the sequel opening during the pandemic, so reduced theater capacities and all that sort of stuff, and it's still able to actually presumably pass the opening weekend for that is quite impressive. Because if it does hit that $58 million mark, it would have surpassed the original film. So that's really good to see. And I've been hearing nothing but good things about A Quiet Place 2. It's seemed to have foregone the sequelitis, and is apparently, like, from what I've heard, it's pretty much the perfect sequel. So I'm really excited to see it. It was one of my favorite movies the year it came out. So, Rick, did you see the first A Quiet Place movie, and what did you
Oh
think
yeah.
of it?
Yeah. No, it was good. I thought it was really good. And it was interesting to think that like Jim Halpert had directed,
Right.
a good movie. But no, I liked it. And it I haven't seen the sequel, obviously, but it would be interesting to kind of see like where he goes with that, you know?
Yeah.
So
Well, that's
like I
the
was
thing
saying
too.
off stream, like,
Mhm.
like seeing like I guess the origins of like where these creatures came from and this and that. So it'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, from what I understand, the movie starts with like a day one event where they don't do the best example I can give is they don't Ridley Scott Prometheus the whole origin thing. They don't
Right.
over explain anything about where they're from, but it just shows the day one events from the perspective of Krasinski's family. So
Well,
Krasinski
that'd
is
be
back.
interesting to see, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
he's obviously you know, spoiler alert, something happened to him at in the first movie, we'll say, that may make it pretty hard for him to show up in the second movie,
right.
So without innately
Might be
spoiling
a little
anything.
difficult, yeah.
Yeah. So he does appear in that first day one flashback sequence, so and that was all in the trailers too. So this is that scene I think is about 10, 15 minutes long, but then it picks up immediately where the first one left off. So I'm excited to see that, and then, the only weird thing is it's been a couple years since that first one, so it picking up immediately where it left off, the children have really aged in the last, like, hour that it would have picked up from, because 'cause they're 2 years older now, but
Yeah.
you just kinda gotta suspend disbelief for that. But the only other thing that's kind of interesting about, at least what I think is interesting, about the sequel for this movie is, like, the first one, we know it was, John Krasinski's directorial debut, but he co-wrote that first movie, and, the second movie was purely written by him, so he did all the writing for it, and he directed it, so this is, like, literally his movie at this point. For all intents and purposes, he's the guy for it, so it's really cool to see that it's presumably as good as the first one, if not better, and, it's looking like it's being, a success at the box office as well, so that's good to see. John, what do you think about, Quiet Place being, or Quiet Place 2 being as successful as it is so far?
Yeah, I mean, not surprising based on how beloved the first one is. I don't think I'd never heard anybody say anything bad about the first one. There may have been people that thought it was just good and not great, but there were plenty of people that thought it was great. So that's not surprising at all. Initially I was like, wow, that's really impressive that it's got the pandemic record. And it's going to be interesting to see where this whole idea of the pandemic record ends. Like, at what point are we officially no longer in the pandemic era of box office? Because obviously, Quiet Place 2, we're in an era now where the vaccine has been out. There was an article the other day that half of the American adult population has now been vaccinated. A lot of theaters have, reduced their this is going to be a weird way of putting it, but they've pulled back on some of their restrictions that they've had as far as capacity goes in their theaters. A lot of states and municipalities have decided that they are no longer requiring the mask for people that are vaccinated. So there's a bunch of different factors that have led to a lot of people feeling a lot more comfortable, not just more comfortable, but having the opportunity to go out and see movies. So, The Quiet Place 2 kind of had an advantage over all those previous pandemic movies when it comes to stuff like that. It'll be interesting to see going forward, like we were talking off stream, like when do we hit that $100 million opening mark, which always was a really high benchmark for stuff. And we've got Fast 9 coming out, Fast and Furious 9 coming out at the end of June, I believe, and then we've got Black Widow coming out a few weeks later. And I personally think one of those has a great opportunity, assuming things with the pandemic, assuming there's not some weird flare up of COVID issues. I think one of those has an excellent chance of hitting that. I think people are just, Quiet Place, in addition to having all the benefits of reduced restrictions, I think it also, benefits from just this kind of, I don't know what the right word is, this kind of anticipation or this build up, like everybody's pin up from having been stuck inside and not being able to go see movies for the past 18 months. And so, this is kind of this rush to the box office that we're seeing with this. And I think we'll see with some of these upcoming movies is kind of, that exhale, that like, oh, finally we can do something that feels a little normal. And it definitely isn't hurting the box office numbers for stuff like this.
Yeah, and we were talking off stream, like you said, about which movie would be first to hit the 100 million mark, to be like the most, I don't know, semblance of normalcy or return to normalcy for, at least Hollywood and the box office and everything. And at first, we did mention Black Widow, like you said, but then you thought Fast 9 because it comes out first. And I think that you're probably right about the Fast 9 thing. I think the only thing that's going to hurt it is like the reviews for it have been like really, really bad. Like I've seen a
Yeah.
ton of people just pretty much say it's a garbage movie, right? And
I could tell you that right off the bat.
well, yeah, and it's like it's just interesting because I don't know, like you said it best where you said the movies have pretty much been review proof in the box office, but I don't know if there's really been one that's been like unanimously received as like bad since like Tokyo Drift. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's
I think they're
Yeah.
all bad. Like, I love cars. I'm a huge car person, but like, no thanks on the Fast and Furious movies.
right. Like I like damn it. I like it. Yeah, it's at a 65% right now on Rotten Tomatoes. And that's with only 23 people having put up a review for it.
I don't like Vin Diesel. Like, I mean, that's just my opinion, but I don't care for him.
Right. Yeah, I'm
It-
curious to see if it's going to impact the box office on it, though.
Yeah, I'm interested. Like, I'd be really interested to see how these reviewers. I mean, according to Rotten Tomatoes, there it's still holding it fresh though, even with the bad reviews. It's not 65 isn't a great number, but I don't know what the Fast and Furious series as a whole what it's rated as. I can't imagine. Like, I don't think anybody looks at these films as high art. But they seem to connect with audiences for some reason. Well, I mean, not for some reason. It's obvious why they connect with audiences. It's big dumb action movies, and
Right.
big dumb action movies have their place in this world. They always have. Like, I'm not bashing big dumb action movies. I love, I love plenty of them. Heck, I even like the first couple Michael Bay Transformers movies, and God knows those were awful. But there's a place for that escapism when you just want to shut your brain off and you want to see some cool stuff happen. And the story can be absolutely garbage, which unfortunately sometimes, a lot of times they are. And I think when you don't get that, when you get a story that's excellent, and when you get a universe that's so well constructed, that's when you reach those astronomical box office highs like you have with the MCU and stuff. But the Fast Nine, I mean, they have their place in the world. I'm not gonna bemoan or bitch about anybody that likes them and wants to go see them. Heck, I'll see this one. I mean, I'm not, I'm not that much of a movie snob that I won't see. I don't know that I'll go to the box office and see it, but I'll watch it when it comes to theater or to home video or streaming.
The only problem with having to watch it on streaming anymore is that you'll have to watch it on Peacock.
Peacock.
Because
Oh,
it's an NBC thing, NBC Universal. This is the only downside. I'm not buying any more fucking streaming services. Like, I'm not doing it.
no,
Right.
and I would rent it from Amazon or rent it from the library before I do
Yeah,
that. Like,
Probably
until
rent.
until they stop doing physical media, I'll get a lot of stuff from the library. So which I do right to this day.
right.
So
And it looks like though it's pretty right on the money with the previous installments of the franchise and how they were with the critics because all of them pretty much before Tokyo Drift. I mean, even Fast and Furious, I think was the fourth one, if I'm not
yes,
mistaken. Like,
yep,
they were all like even that one was rated as bad. But so like Too Fast, Too Furious, The Fast and the Furious, the first one somehow came out with a 53, so it was like it's borderline bad, like at least as far as the critics went. But then after that, they were all fresh and like around the 70% rank or higher, which is pretty much what I expected in all honesty. So I know a lot of
and
people
that's
actually
kind of
like
that's
the fourth one though, so I was surprised to see that one being so low. But
well, that was the one where Vin Diesel came back full on to the franchise, right?
yeah, the fourth one,
He
yeah.
he was gone for he wasn't in Too Fast and Too Furious and just had the cameo in Tokyo Drift, right?
Yeah, if I remember
So,
correctly, yeah. Yep.
yeah.
So yeah, it's not a surprise, but I don't know. Like I was actually surprised about the fourth one being this low because I hear a lot of people like it. Ever since the fourth one, that was kind of the first one where they kind of embrace the fact that they're going to be a ridiculous action franchise as opposed to anything that has to do with cars and street racing. That's been gone
Yeah,
since the fourth one. Like,
yeah.
and then like Fast Five, where they all start to pick up and actually be fresh. I've enjoyed everything from Fast Five and on. I didn't.
Well,
Not,
I saw sorry to interrupt. I
no,
saw
you're
a
good.
thing the other day that pointed out that The Rock was brought in Fast 5, and that was like box
Hmm.
office what's about box office steroids or whatever that he brought. They think that he had a hand in raising the quality of it too because he
For
had so
sure.
much clout at that time or has so much clout now. So,
I mean, yeah, anymore, The Rock is just like box office gold. Doesn't mean the
Yeah,
movie's gonna be
you put the
good.
rock in it, it's gonna do
Yeah,
well.
people are gonna go watch it.
which Which would be super ironic if because this is gonna be the first one without him then since Fast 5, and if this one ends up not holding well and ends up not being great, it's gonna look like maybe there was something to The Rock being kind of one of the key elements that made the series so good
Oh, for
for the
sure.
past few.
Especially if you compare like the juxtaposition between how this one's gonna do if he's not in it, and then Hobbs and Shaw just came out and it
Yeah,
did great. Like it almost made $1 billion and it was reviewed
and
at
Hobbs & Shaw
like
did it
67%.
do well?
Yeah, it almost made
It it
$1 billion.
Okay, because I haven't heard anything about any possible sequels or anything to that, so I was really surprised. I'm kind of surprised to hear it did well because it just felt like it came out and then that was it. You didn't hear anything else about it. So
Yeah, and I was actually kind of like I thought the whole premise was kind of stupid. Like it was honestly Hobbs and Shaw, even though despite all of them, like I said before, kind of embrace the fact that they're going to be some big dumb crazy action movies. Hobbs and
mhm.
Shaw was like the first one that honestly was like, I mean, Idris Elba had superpowers. You know what I mean? It pretty much became a knockoff superhero franchise like at that point. So I mean, apparently, though, with Fast 9, like, they officially jumped the shark. Like, they're just like, there's all suspension of disbelief, there's, like, no verisimilitude, it's all gone. Everything's just, like it's essentially visual noise. So, like, I wanna see it out of sheer curiosity at this point.
Yeah.
I don't think I even watched Fast 8, to be
I haven't
honest with
seen
you.
like any of them.
Honestly, I would recommend
Yeah.
watching Fast 5. It's good. Like,
After
Fast 5
Tokyo
is
Drift,
good.
I was just like,
Tokyo Drift's a terrible movie.
right.
But, like, Fast 5 is great. Like, if you've
And
probably seen the clip, it's one where they drive the tank around, Luke Evans is in it, and it's the first appearance, like, albeit at the very end of the
They're
movie
going
of
to
Jason Statham, like,
they're going to fucking
really good.
space in this new movie. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, I know, that's the from what I hear, that's the biggest, like, jump the shark moment, where it's just like, "Okay, we just gotta ignore everything about it just this movie just is what it is now." It's, like, pretty much a live action Wile E. Coyote movie is what I'm, like, hearing from it, so I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll have to wait and see. But good news is, A Quiet Place 2 looks like it's the complete opposite of that. So hopefully it's gonna be a box office success, and it's being reviewed, like, very, very highly right now, so
Well,
that's good.
and the other thing I have to throw in here is, like, as someone that loves movies so much and loves going to, like, if I lost the ability to go to the theater and see movies, I would there would be a period of probably big depression for me. Like, that's a huge part of my life. That's something I've always loved doing since I was a little kid. That I would it would just gut me to have theaters close. And so this is great news. Like, I could not be more happy. I think this is hopefully a sign that all the people that were calling for theaters to be dying, that like, oh, theaters are gone. Like, this is going to be the pandemic's going to what kill off the theater. Streaming is taken over. Like, I'm hoping that this is starting, at least to point to the fact that streaming and theaters can coexist. Just because you have the ability to watch stuff, streaming, people weren't like, "Oh, Quiet Place 2, okay, well, we'll just wait, a month or 2 until it's released streaming and then watch it." They actually went out and saw it, so
Mhm.
good news for me.
Well, I think honestly, kinda, like, piggyback on off what I said earlier about the Fast and Furious thing, like, if you wanna watch it, like, streaming-wise, you're gonna have Peacock, and that's one of the
Yeah.
newer services that, like, like, myself, for instance, even though The Office moved from Netflix to there because they own it, I still haven't fished out the money for it, partly on principle because the name's so damn stupid.
Right.
But I just like, in the end, I just can't pay for another streaming service, and the same thing's gonna happen with A Quiet Place too. It's gonna go to Paramount Plus because it's a Paramount movie. So it's just another annoying example of, like, everyone's already got, like, we got Netflix, we got, Hulu, Disney Plus, HBO Max, like, I gotta that's where I draw the line, like, that's already, like, 4. Like, there might
Yeah.
even be one that I'm forgetting about that I have at this point, like, I don't even remember. It's just too many. So, I think that's honestly plays into a part of, like, I know a lot of people probably aren't as in tune with what distributor, like, of the film is, they just wanna go watch the movie, but I know for me, I'll at least be, like, paying attention to who's making the movie, so, like, and make kinda base that decision off whether I even wanna go to the theater or not, because if I know I'm not gonna be able to stream it because it's gonna be, because it's a Paramount movie and I'm not gonna get Paramount Plus, then my only option is to go to the theaters or buy it, so
Yeah, but even with the streaming, like, stuff, I'm not, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I thought for sure, even with, like, let's say Fast 9, like, if you don't have Peacock, you'll still be able to, like, chill out the $5 from Amazon or though and rent it for a night, right? Just to watch it.
honestly, it just depends, like, going forward, what they're gonna do eventually is not do that, because
You think so?
100%, because that's what's gonna make people have to get their service. Like, they'll probably have the option for you to outright buy it from Amazon, you know what I mean, or buy it from the
Yeah.
iTunes store, but in order to just, like, rent it or stream it, or just watch it, like, in general, like, they're not gonna license it out to, like Netflix would license out these things from Paramount or whatever. They're not gonna
Well,
do
I mean,
that anymore at all,
at
like
to be honest, if you're savvy enough and you don't mind the hassle of it, you could theoretically sign up for Peacock for a month and probably it would probably cost what, probably like $10 a month. So it's not going to be that much more than renting the
true.
movie. And then you get the service for the entire month. You do have to go through the hassle of canceling at the end of the month, but
Yeah.
Right.
What I fear they may end up doing, like, if that becomes a predominant thing, uh what I think they might end up doing, 'cause, AMC, A-List already does this. If you subscribe, right, you get it for a month, and then a lot of people will cancel it, right? But what AMC Plus
yeah.
does, or, I don't know if it's called AMC Plus. What do they call it? AMC whatever it's called from AMC. I forget what it is, but the monthly sub for the AMC theaters. Um if you cancel it, because I did this back, I ended up having to pay for 2 different AMC memberships because they wouldn't let you take, like, a guest or anybody with you, so, like, it was still cheaper for me to sub to 2 of them for me and my wife than it would be for us to go buy the tickets, because we both get the 3 free movies. I think they've since changed that and added, like, some family things in here because we talked about this years ago, back before the pandemic when I actually had the AMC membership, because when that hit, I just canceled it. There was no real point to it. I may have canceled it a little before, but point being, when I went to cancel it, it literally says, it, like, gives you a warning that says, "If you cancel, you will not be able to resubscribe for 6 months." So it's to avoid that from happening because I could just sub to it, go watch the 3 movies a week for a month, and then I could just cancel it. So I would have only had to pay the $20 to go see 3 movies.
But they won't let you resubscribe.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, because it's gonna cost them money if people do that.
yeah.
And I could see, like, if it becomes a very predominant issue for the streaming services, they start to see trends like that, that people are just subbing for, when big movie releases come out, they'll probably start penalizing the cancellation, putting like a refresh period on that to say, okay, you can cancel, but you won't be able to resub for 6 months. It'll be a 6-month
Yeah.
lull. We'll just have to wait and see. That's probably a little bit ways down the road, but it is what it is. But the question is, guys, what do you think about the A Quiet Place 2, like, smashing this pandemic box office record? I think it's great. It's good to see, like John said, it just like seems like people are ready to get back to the theaters, and like the reduced capacities at some of the theaters in certain states are probably helping this thing kind of boost it up. And also, it's pretty good that the first movie was so well received. I'm sure that's helping a bit too. So, and then obviously the early reviews that came out for this film, being as good as they were, more than likely helped its success here a little bit. And like I said, I'm very curious to see what the situation will be for Fast 9. I think that's a little outlier there because while, like John said, it's probably the most likely movie to hit like that $100 million opening post pandemic. I'm very curious if it's going to continue to be sort of review proof after, like, even though it's a little fresh on Rotten Tomatoes right now, I've heard some pretty bad things about the movie. So whatever you guys think about all that, let us know down in the comment section below.